Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Martinez, and today we're going to be working on Chapter 11 projects. Here we go. Chapter 11 hand on projects, I mean. In Project 1-1 configuring group policy, I configured GPOs on my Windows Server 2019 host and test application on my VM2. What I did was create a new folder called user data, as well as another folder called software. Afterwards, I then installed the MSI notepad and copied it to the software folder. Then I went to Server Manager and placed a new package for it to open on the other computer. I then created a brand new drive called W. After I finished creating the W drive, I configured some more settings such as exclusive permissions to a folder, as well as enabling prohibit access control panel and settings. Afterwards, I entered the VM2 and checked if there was items on my desktop or not. If there was no items, that means user config was applied to administer user account. And I also checked to see if the default domain policy GPO was applied to give the Notepad Plus application here as well. I then selected File Explorer from the Start menu, and I have a map drive for Domain X Warehouse. Afterwards, I decided to log into another account, bbertdomain 104.com, and recycle bin appears because domain policy is not applied to bobbert. When I enter settings, I'm unable to access it because marking group policy was applied to bobbert user account, and also applies control panel given the error message I receive. When I enter File Explorer, it takes me to serverxdomainx.com user data bbert instead of the regular documents. I decided to try logging in 3 more times and failing to make the bobbert user account blocked. Afterwards, I went back to my VM 2019 host to unlock the bobbert account, logged in as administrator, and went to PowerShell admin and typed gp-result/r to check the configuration. And I noticed that the local group policy was not applied because it contained no settings. Let's see how it works. As you can see in the VM2, there is no recycle bin because it was removed. And if I try to check the added apps, it gives me Notepad+. When I enter File Explorer and check this PC, it shows me the data warehouse drive as well. I'm going to try logging into bobbert account to see what happens. I'm currently in the bobbert account and it has the recycle bin. I'm going to try entering settings to see what happens. Where's settings? There it is. I'm going to try entering settings, see what happens. Okay, it kicks me out. I'm going to try entering control panel, see what happens as well. Okay, it gives me an error because restrictions apply to it. Okay, I decided to check the document's properties like in the assignment, and it says that the location is serve 104 domain 104 user data bbert. Alright, I'm going to try entering my password, and it says the reference account is currently locked out and may not be logged on to. Let's see how we can fix that. Okay, as you can see here, the bobbert account is currently locked out, so I'm going to click unlock account, apply, and okay. It should work now. While we're here, I'm gonna do the Windows PowerShell command. The which one is it? The GP result R. Let's see GP result. Okay, it says local group policy was not applied because they were filtered out. In other words, there was no settings for local group policy. And yeah, I think I did it correctly. In Project 11-2, I installed and configured Active Directory certificate services on my host and configured certificate templates and enroll for them. I first installed Active Directory certificate services in Server Manager, and then after installing it, I decided to expand domain server XCA and highlight certificate templates. I did it by entering certification authority and selecting domain 104 and highlighting certificate templates. In the console of templates, I clicked General tab and typed Domain X Computer as the first one, template name. I configured the several settings such as enroll and auto enroll for security, and then I created Domain X User to then I deselected include email and subject and email name options, and I click extensions and selected enroll and auto enroll as security settings as well. I closed certificate templates console and then I clicked new certificate template issue. I selected domain X computer, domain X user, and I selected RAS and IAS server as well. After that, I right click start and run. Entered cert LMMSC to open the MMC snap-in for local computer. I entered RAS and IAS server as certificates, and then I finished. In certificates navigation pane of the MMC, there's certificate based on RAS and IAS server template. Then I closed it. I then went to group policy management and edited the default domain policy by changing computer configuration and enable configuration model. I did a similar thing for the user by selecting both configuration model, renewing expired certificates, and updating them, remove revoked ones. I did the same thing with the user configuration by renewing expired certificates and removing revoked ones as well. I went back to the VM2 and rebooted the VM2. I then entered the computer, typed in cert LMMSC to check the certificate snap-ins. There are some of them auto-enrolled certificates based on Domain X computer template, and then I went to cert MGR MSC, and it shows a Domain X user certificate template based on the one I did. In Certification Authority, I highlight Issue Certificates folder and note certificates and noted the certificates issued by CA. So as you can see here, the certificate templates I have are Domain 104 User, RAS and IAS Server, and Domain 104 Computer. Now let's see what's going on in the VM2. I'm going to type a cert LMMSC on my VM2 to see what happens. Okay, let's go to the personal folder, check certificates, and Yeah, there's two certificates shown here based on domain 104 computer and RAS and IS server. Now let's see what happens when I type in cert mgr. Cert mgr. Okay, here it is. Here it is, the certificate template domain 104 user issued to the administrator in cert mgr. While we're at it, we're going to check the issued certificates, also showing the instructions. And here are the issued certificates, such as RAS and IS server, 104 computer, and 104 user. Nice. So that proves I did this one correctly as well. In project 11-3, I configure radius for 8021X and optionally, keep in word, optionally test my configuration using WAP. I went to Network Privacy Server, selected radius server for 8021X, and in the configuration, I typed the IP address of the WAP. Since I don't have a physical WAP, I have to supply a sample IP address 1234. I typed secret55 in shared secret, and in authentication method, I selected Microsoft Protected EAP. And I have a certificate used for PEAP, which was issued during the RAS and IS server certificate template in the last project. Next, I specified user groups, domain users, and traffic controls page. I finished and expanded policies, highlighted connection request policies, and took note of the secure wireless connection policies created. As well as the ones for network policies. Since I don't have a physical WAP or WAP, this is what I have to do instead. To prove I created the network policy server WAP, here it is, the settings such as connection request policies and the network policies to prove I did it. Yeah, that's all I have to prove I did it. I know it's a shame, but I unfortunately do not have access to a WAP to connect this computer with. In Project 11-4, I install and configure WSUS to provide updates for Windows systems in my domain. In Server Manager, I installed Windows Server Update Services. After I finished installing it, I clicked Launch Post-Installation Tasks. In Windows Server Update Services, it gives me a configuration wizard, and when it asks me if I would like to join Microsoft Update Improvement Program, I deselect. In Upstream Server page, it asks me to note default selection synchronized for Microsoft Update, and the proxy server specification, I don't have a proxy server. So I click Next. In Connect Upstream Server page, I start connecting to download Windows Catalog. After it installs, it gives me products, but I choose not to install them. In Classifications, I deselect Definition Updates and Upgrades. For the Configure Sync, I specify 1 AM in first synchronization text box, and the Finish page, I select Begin Initial Synchronization to close the wizard, and open Update Services tool. In the Services tool, I select Server 104 and highlight Options. For automatic approvals in Options pane, I check the default automatic approval rule Then I run it to approve critical security updates already synchronized on WSUS, and then I close it. I then go to Group Policy Management and edit the default domain policy for domain 104. In there, I highlight in there, I go to the computer configuration settings, and then I highlight the Windows Update folder all the way down. In there, I select Configure Automatic Updates, enable it, and cause it to auto download and schedule install. Specify 1 o'clock in the install time. For specify Internet Microsoft Update Service location, I enable it and type serverx domain x 8530 for both Internet Update Service and Internet Statistical Server text boxes. Then I close both windows. As you can see here, I have default automatic approval rule enabled, as you can see here. And when I run the rule, it gives me 0 updates approved because I already ran this rule beforehand. And there are no more updates approved. Alright, I'm in the Group Policy Management Editor as set in the instructions. I'm going to try finding two rules. Okay, configure automatic updates and specify Internet Microsoft Update Services. As you can see, this one is enabled with auto download and schedule install time is 1 o'clock. As for this one, specify Internet service location, I enabled it and typed this as the Internet Update Service, server 104, domain 104, 8530, for both this one and that one. So yeah, I did that one correctly as well. In Project 11-5, I configure Windows Defender settings and create new firewall rule for Windows Defender Firewall. I start Windows Defender settings and note that the areas are protected by default in the system. I go to Virus and Threat Protection, perform a quick scan on the system, view threat history, as well as manage ransomware protection. I note that the controlled folder access is not enabled default. I then go to Firewall Network Protection, note the firewall is enabled for active domain network profile, allowed an app through firewall, but before I actually allow an app, I cancel it, as shown in the instructions. For app and browser control, it warns users of unrecognized apps, and then I exploit protection settings. Note all system settings are enabled by default. Program settings gives me a note that I can modify protection settings for programs on system. Then I go with device security. I note whether core isolation and secure boot are enabled on my host. Core installation details notes core isolation is disabled. And then I close Windows Security. I then run wf.msc to open Windows Defender Firewall and create a brand new inbound rule based on ports, such as ports 27950, 27952, 27960, and 27965 in the ports text box. After I click next a few times, I create the name IT Network Load Testing Software and finish it, and now my inbound rule is enabled for all profiles. Then I close Windows Defender Firewall. As you can see, Windows security is shown here, such as virus and threat protection, firewall and network protection, app and browser control, and last but not least, device security. As you can see here, Here's the IT network load testing software rule. And in here, it shows like different ports allowed through it, such as 27950, 27952, 27960, and 27965 are allowed to go through. So, yeah, I did this one correctly. Hello, everyone. I am back. Thank you all so much for watching this video. My name is Jose Martinez, and I will see you all in the future project, I think. Yeah, goodbye.